and Web3 engineers. My name is Sabyasachi, and let's get started with Python in 10-minute series. In this series, we are going to learn about classes. What are classes? Why do we use them? What is the syntax of it? A simple real-world example. What is inheritance? And we'll do more practice, right? So we'll start with why classes. We will, use more of practice because it's more of a hands-on topic, right? So to understand classes, we need to understand objects. So we create objects out of classes, right? For example, there is an animal class, then dog is an object of that particular class, right? And this dog has a few attributes that are defined in the class, right? The height, color, and breed, and example. That's how. And there are functions like bark and all those things. So whenever you create a Pomerian, which is a new object of that particular class, it will have the function bark. So every dog will have that particular function. So now these functions are called methods. Now let us see in action how do we use and create these classes and objects, right? So the class has primarily the first portion, which is the class definition. Like let's just say class, the name of the class, which is animal here, and in the parentheses we have object, right? Now if you see the first method that we use or create is define is init, right? So init, so which is a short for initializing. Now definition of underscore underscore init underscore underscore, right? So this is how you write it. And then in parentheses there is the first parameter is called self. So why do we have the first parameter as self is we refer to the own object that is getting created, right? For example, we are creating the animal dog. So now that particular object dog.name is equal to the next parameter that is passed, name, comma, age, right? So now what we are going to do here is self.name equal to name, self.age equal to age, right? So only while defining you need to add the self parameter, but when you're passing an argument you can just have name and age, right? So let us try to see how do we use it. Okay, now if you see, we have created an object called zebra and we have given it the same attributes, name and age. Now we have called the class animal and passed on the initialization parameters, right? So whenever we create a new object, the first method to run is the initialization, right? So now here this object got initialized and it got these attributes. So now what we are trying to do is try to print these particular attributes, right? So let's print it. Now the zebra.name is Jeffrey and zebra.age is 2, right? Now, for example, by initializing only, we want to give another parameter or the attribute in real life is hungry. We want to know if the animal is hungry. So we say self.is hungry equal to, whatever parameter is being passed is hungry, right? So now that is done. Now you can say it is true or false, right? So we want to print zebra dot is hungry, right? So let's try to print it. Now it says yes, it is hungry, true, right? So this is the definition. This is how you create an object. This is how you print the attributes of the object, which is something that we have been doing from the beginning, right? So now let us try to understand what is scope. So if you look at scope, whenever we are dealing with classes, uh, we have variables that are available everywhere. These are called global variables. Variables that are available only to the members of a certain class. These are called member variables, and variables that are only available to a particular object or instance is called instance variable, right? So now let us just try to add in a line here. It says is alive true. Now if you see, uh, this is being this attribute is being already given before we initialize the object itself, which means that this is available for all the members. So is alive is true for all the members by default, right? So now even if I try to call zebra dot is alive, should say true, right? So now what this means is this is in a scope that is available for everyone, and this which is more of a member variable, right? So that is class scope. We'll see more of it in detail going forward. Now let us see a real world in a use case. Now we don't have animals and flowers only while working in real world scenario. Now if you look at the class that is being created here is shopping cart, right? Now the shopping cart function, what they have done is they have initialized items in cart to be empty, right? Now this is a the class variable. Then whenever an object is created for the shopping cart, what is initialized is the customer name. The self dot customer name is equal to the customer name that is being passed, right? So for example, if you are passing on if you are initializing a new object, it will have the customer name passed on in it, right? So now add now what this was the attributes that were given. So let us keep it simple. Now what happened is there is another definition of a method where, apart from the init method. Now how init is defined is there is underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and within parentheses you have your parameters. Now general definition of function is as usual we do, but the first parameter is always going to be self, right? So now while you're initializing, while you're defining the function, you just need to have the parameter self. But while passing on the argument, you need not have to have 3 arguments. You can just have product and price. Now, what we are trying to do in add item is we are going to check if the item is there in cart. If it is there in cart, we are going to say the product is already in the cart. If it is not there, we say the product is added, right? So the function here is if not product, I mean if the product is not there in items in cart, self dot items in cart, then items in cart of product is equal to price. So the price gets added to this particular items in cart, right? So print product is added, product added, right? So let's say we are trying to initialize say user equal to shopping cart, and we have to pass the customer name. Let's the customer name be Ram. Okay, so we have passed in the name of the customer. Let's try to print it. Now let's try to run it. what is the issue? Okay, let's say no. Okay. Okay, this is how collab works. We keep forgetting we have to have parentheses in all our print statements, right? Okay, so we are going to run it. Okay, so now the user got created. Let's try to see user dot customer name, right? So let's try to print user dot customer name. That should print now, right? So now user is an object of shopping cart, right? Now the initialization is done. Now what we can do is we can add an item to this particular function. So how do we do that? User dot add item, and we are going to, the product is, let's just say, earphones, and the price is 15. Okay, now we are trying to run it. Okay, so now the earphones got added, right? So now what we are trying to do is, let's try add another earphones which is of price 25 and see what is happening. Earphones is already in cart, right? So now this is the same way you can create another user of the same shopping cart class, and try to add or remove items by writing functions, right? Okay, so this is how we use it in real world. If you look at inheritance, this is an important topic of classes. Now, let's first try to run with the code and understand, right? So many times what happens is we inherit from a parent class, right? So now if you see, there is a class which is shape, right? Now in that we have, whenever we create, the initialization takes number of sides. Any shape has sides. Now self dot number of sides is the number of sides passed, right? So this is like a parent class. Now we have another class which is like a child of this particular class. Now that class triangle, instead of object, we pass the class from which we want to inherit a few properties. Now if you see, when we have passed in the shape, the number of sides function is also, the number of sides attribute is also passed on into the triangle, right? Apart from that, it is also having a initialization of its own, which has the length of side 1, side 2, and side 3, right? So this is inheritance. What this triangle has done is inherited shape. So you can have another analogy where there is a vehicle, and there could be a class which says tractor and another which says a four-wheeler, right? So both of them are vehicles, but they have properties like number of wheels and all, but they are not same, right? So some properties which are common for all vehicles can be inherited by the child classes, right? So so in a way, triangle will also have the number of sides. That is what inheritance means. We'll see this in a little example.